I don't take sides. And so
Right.
in this book, we have tensions between the African American community and we have and the Jewish American community. And I don't pick sides. I show the flaws equally. I show, we have a racist Jewish character who's locked and imprisoned in a basement with a racist African American. And I don't pull punches either way. So you decide. I'm not here to tell you, oh, the white guy has to always be wrong because I'm black, or the woman has to be wrong because I'm male, or whatever. You know what I mean? I just put it out there. So sometimes I do describe in detail because I want to paint such a picture.
Yeah.
Such a picture that they go, oh my God, I see that character. I see that character.
The Toure Show. Okay, though. The Toure Show. Okay, though.
That might be the best question I've ever been asked.
You're a phenomenal person. I mean, you legendary.
I am a fan of you, my brother.
Eriq La Salle is a famous actor who's been around for decades. He had a big role in Coming to America back in the 80s, but now he's also working as an author. He's still acting, he's still directing, but he's an author. He's got a new novel out called Laws of Annihilation. We're going to talk about being a writer. We're going to talk about being an actor. We're going to talk about the actors that he thinks are great that I may not think are so good. It's a fantastic conversation. It's Eriq La Salle on Toure Show. So when I was younger, some black people would tease me like, oh, Negroes with French names. And I wonder if you get that.
No, because my name it's French and Spanish. In Spanish, it's La Salle.
Yeah.
But no.
You throw the Q in the Eriq, I wonder if people want to be like, I want to tease this nigga right now.
Nah, I've been kind of, at least in my face, I've been spared.
I mean, people tease
who knows
you
what they say, yeah.
and love you.
But I was see, you were young. I was a young adult when I started spelling it with a Q.
Okay.
I was in college.
Okay.
So and the reason I did it, I'll never forget, we had this professor, and they were like, when you hand in your picture and resume, let me tell you what happens. And he just started throwing them in the garbage. And he said, make sure you have something that stands out
on the page.
And it freaked me out so much. And I was my freshman year of college, I was teaching this little Haitian girl, and she always called me Eriq. And so all this stuff was happening around the same time. So I was like, oh, I'm spelling this a little different. But see, what I was too young and naive to understand. He was talking about actors just off the street, not representation, not an agent. They don't do that with a reputable agent. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I just thought, oh my God, you get the picture and resume, they toss it.
But it does help when
it does help.
There is a uniqueness to the name.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Do you think Eriq with a Q leaps off the page and gets you more work than if you had been Eriq with a C?
No, I mean, because at the end of the day, it's really about the work, and like I said, it's about the representation, and so the representation gets you in the room, and then the work is what's going to define you in the room. And so, same thing for me, with writing. It's just like at the end of the day, no matter what type of publicity options I have or possibilities. It boils down to what's the quality of the product.
Yeah.
And so so for me, it's all the same.
Why are you writing? Writing is really hard. It's really exhausting. It just kills your mind. It makes you, to write a novel is partly to like go crazy for a period of time.
Yeah.
Why are you doing this?
You know what it is? It's like the most.
Because this is your third novel?
It's my third novel.
Laws of Annihilation.
But I've written another one. I'll say, man, it is the most gratifying torture you can endure. It's because, and like it drives you crazy, and the scary thing is how insulated and sort of lonely it is because it's just you.
Yeah.
So by the time you sort of come out of this hibernation, you come out of this cave to share with the world, to share with readers, it takes a while for you to understand. For you might, because you think, oh, it's like a baby. Oh, my baby's cute. My baby's cute. And all of a sudden the world starts saying, your baby's got a big head.
Yeah, baby.
Your baby's funny looking, right? I mean, all you living with that baby, you're like, oh my God, it's so, you know what I mean? I know black people tend to be a little more honest. Black people are like, I love you. You got a big ass head, but I love you. But for the most part, you're like, you live with it, and then you have to turn it out to the world. And then and so it's really not until you start getting some validation. And that's the weirdest, to me, that's the weirdest thing, because acting is immediate. So you come into an audition, and they're like, wow, or thank you, well, you know what I mean? So you kind of have a much more immediate sense of your art.
But when you're on a TV set, there's no, right? If you do a play,
you're right
there, right? But you're on a TV set, you don't really know.
Right. And that was the case with ER. We were in a tunnel doing
for folks who remember, ER was one of the biggest shows of the decade. Right? It was a massive phenomenon.
Yeah. And, so when we first started, because you start shooting in July. So we started shooting in July. You don't air until like September. Okay. So because you have to put some episodes in the can, as they call it, right? So we're shooting. So we have no one has seen it. Yeah. But look, we're reading these scripts and we're going, these are good scripts, right? But no one has seen it. So I remember going to a premiere one night, and people, and the show had just come on. Yeah. The first week. And I ended up going to a premiere, and I was late. And so everyone was in the theater, and I pull up, and the press is still outside. And they went crazy. They're yelling your name, and you're like, what the, it's just, you're like, what the, yeah. So it was.
Because this is your first career success.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, Coming to America was huge.
And Coming to America was 6 years before ER?
Yes. It's good, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 6 years before. So there was that. But yeah, just kind of finding it and it just sort of surprising you. You know what I mean? Because like I said, you work in a vacuum, and then you emerge and wait for the scrutiny of the world, the scrutiny of critics, the scrutiny of peers, the scrutiny of, and in that way, the book and the ER thing were very similar.
So wait, you said writing is gratifying torture. Mm-hmm. I want to know, what is the torture part?
The torture is, like, you think about it, like even during the strike, you think that's an ideal time to write, right? I'm just going to go write a book, and because this is what I do now, right? Or one of the things I do. So you go, oh, no, nothing came. So you don't control it. That's the torturous part. You don't control it.
You don't control the muse.
You don't control the muse. And so you go, hey, this would be a good time. I got some days off. I'm uninterrupted. I'm all of this stuff, right? You think it's no, not necessarily. I mean, fortunately, I was doing other things. And there's a thing about writers. They say you have basically two positions. You're either writing or thinking about writing.
Yeah.
And so I've been I think about writing every day.
Yeah.
Am I writing every day right now? No. But for me, the way that I work, the more I think about it, when I start, it just flows. Because I've been mentally storing up. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so I'm not the kind of writer that uses the flashcards.
Okay.
And I'm not that organized. I'm not that, like, my stuff is organic, and like I'll leave here and be like, oh shit, the killer had a red shirt. Like I absorb whatever my day-to-day is, whatever my moment-to-moment is. So, but one of the most frustrating things is you just don't control it. You know what I mean?
So you can't say, all right, I'm going to write from 9 to 12 because you don't quite know when.
When I'm in my groove.
When I'm
in my groove, yeah. And I'll get there once I start putting it down. Then now I don't say 9 to 5. I write because a lot of times, and I noticed this when I was doing Chicago PD. Like sometimes I'd have to be on set at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I'd wake up at 5. Now I might get more done in 2 hours than I will 8 hours. So I can have a Saturday.
Interesting.
Where you go, okay, I'm in all day. Let's write 9 to 5, right? Let's put in 8 out, right? Nothing comes. But then I'm like, oh shit, I gotta get to set, right? Boom, 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 boom. Oh man, boom, boom, boom. And you're like, wow, in 2 hours time. So that's again, talk about the frustration. You don't control it. I don't, or at least I don't. I just don't have, I don't have a formula.
Yeah.
I'm impulsive, I'm impetuous. I just get up and
You go straight to the computer or you handwrite?
I go straight to computer. Yeah, I go straight to computer. And some days a good day is 3 sentences.
Sure.
If they're good sentences.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And so I'm not, and everybody
But
has.
there's no way that you could write 3 sentences and then never have to change them.
Sometimes, no, you can't.
You put that down and then a week or a month later, you'd be like, oh, I can.
Well, you can. No, you can, but and sometimes the opposite. I totally agree with that, but sometimes the opposite. Sometimes you go back 2 or 3 months later and you go, damn, I wrote that. You're like, that's pretty good, That's pretty good. So so obviously the longer it goes, the more, there's the influence of what's happening in the world. There's the influence of what's happening in your world. So yeah, you tweak a lot. But I find, and this might be sacrilegious to say as a writer, I don't do a ton of rewriting. I know.
What?
I don't do
what
it.
Are you talking about?
I don't.
That's the game.
I know. Everyone thinks, but for me, I don't do a ton of course you do. I don't do a ton of it pound for pound. Like when sometimes if I have a lot of stuff and I go back, I just got to tweak this. I got to tweak this. I don't do a ton of it, and that's whatever. So it's here. But what I will do is I'll put it down. And all day, it might just be that thing. It might just be that one paragraph. It might just be those 3 sentences. All day, I'm like, boom, I'm playing with it. I get up in the morning.
Yeah.
It's still holding up. So I'm living with 3 lines. I'm living with 1 paragraph. And so by the time it sort of survives that scrutiny, self-scrutiny, then I usually don't have to do a ton. Of course, yes, I rewrite. Every writer rewrites. But some people believe that rewriting is really it. And for me, it's not. My first instinct. And then, maybe I'll add a little something. Here's something that's really cool. As I continue to grow and understand the craft more, like for instance, my first book, I did a lot of double adjectives.
Okay.
Because I'm so dramatic. Like I'm very dramatic.
Yeah.
So I want you to feel the drama. So
yeah.
I'm gonna add a little extra something to it. He wasn't angry. He was very, very angry. You know what I mean? He was, she wasn't fine. She was damn fine. So that's me, right? So I started noticing, a friend of mine read it, and that's the other thing. I let really intelligent people read it that give honest opinions. I don't have time for sycophants. Like my goal has always been to be a really legitimately good writer. Like I don't want to be I'm not interested in that. I hate this word. I'm a celebrity writer or this writer. I want to be a really, really good writer. And so my ego is such that I welcome criticism because that's going to make me better.
Yeah.
Like some people, you go, they have so much ego that they don't,
So wait, are you still on the adjective train?
Well, now I look at my work and go, man, it's so much more powerful by removing. Yes. Less is more.
The verbs should do the work.
Bingo.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe the nouns, not adjectives, and no adverbs.
Right.
Right? If you need an adjective to make your point, then the other words have not done enough.
Exactly.
Right? The verb should give you the sense that you're trying to add with the adjective.
Exactly. And so that's called trusting yourself as well.
Yeah.
And so when I look at the difference between my first book and my second book and my third book, and I read it and I was like, wow, you trusted just that one simple sentence. You didn't have to overdo it. You didn't have to double down on it. That one word, one descriptor is better than two. You know what I mean? And because I would do such and such and such and such. You go, no, dude, just find one way to say boom, and you get it. And so that's been that's actually for me in learning the craft and studying the craft, because I'm very craft based. I come from classical training in theater, and, Juilliard and NYU. So I appreciate classical training. I truly appreciate craft. So whenever I switch mediums, one of the things I do, and this is a big mistake that people make, just because you have success in one arena doesn't guarantee you success in the next arena. What you have to do is you have to study that second arena the same way you studied the first arena.
How have you studied writing? Are there writing books that you've read?
I do. I learned something early into the game, which is really simple and it's really effective. Read up. Read up. And I love that.
Which means
read good writers.
Yeah, for sure.
Read elevated. So I like to read people that make me angry with them. Mm-hmm. I like, this motherfucker came up, like, how the hell did she come up with?
Who are you mad at?
Well, genre-wise, John Sanford is one of the godfathers of thrillers. Mm-hmm. Don Winslow gets me mad. Don Winslow is a really good writer. He gets me mad.
Okay.
I read, what is his name? Lou. Oh my God. Why am I blanking on Lou's name? November Road. And he just, Lou Burney.
Okay.
Right, I'm sorry. Sorry, Lou. He's actually, I know him. He's really cool. So I read different writers as my studying. I go to, I started going to book conventions, because you have to understand, you have to appreciate the business of writing as well. You know what I mean? You have to understand.
There's some great books about craft. I don't know if you've read them. I mean, Samuel Delany has a fantastic book about writing. Stephen King.
Well, Stephen, yeah.
His book on writing is extraordinary.
I've read some on,
Yeah, even if you don't care for his work, his, on writing is extraordinary.
The only thing I don't, and which, we're talking a master. I think sometimes people, when they read on writing, they take it so literal. And I think there's no absolute in writing. I think I don't say I'll never use an adverb. I'll never say I won't. I might go back if it felt right and use a double adjective. If in that particular instance it's conveying something. So it's a rarity.
So
it's
the
a rarity.
Next time you're at the computer and you see that you want to put a double adjective, imagine me coming through the window.
You and Steven. It's
don't do it.
But I'm saying, what I'm saying is that, and we're talking not even 0.1% of the time.
Sure.
I'm saying that there are times when you'll see, and I'm so not suggesting I'm not, you'll see a master craftsman break rules.
Sure.
And you go, oh, yeah. And so that's also a part of studying. And so I think understanding, so, in talking to writers and being able to go to conventions and read. It's just like you just start becoming better.
Yeah.
And especially and the more you do it, I mean, there's nothing like doing it, but you want to elevate the craft by, when I read certain authors and I see the simplicity. I see the simplicity in which and that's what I'm saying. So that's when like a Don Winslow, like there is just, Lane, then it's like you read some of their stuff and you go, I'm not trying to be their voice. I could never be their voice.
Right.
I've got to stay true to my voice. And then there's some writers that sometimes I've read and I just go, that voice works so well for them. Yeah. It would never, like, there have been times early on, I think, when I was finding my style, I was contemplating changing my style.
Yeah.
When you read something that's influential.
Yeah.
But then you start going, okay, that works for them.
Yeah.
But then you start getting validated when people start saying, well, I was just reading, my publicist was just reading something to me about a blogger that wants me to do an interview. And they said, and they read this book, and they said, you don't really read in thrillers. They don't have you, scared and hitting all your emotional highs as well. And so there's been this, and what's important about that is we want to champion voices that actually change the game.
Sure. And
you got to realize that people that look like you and I haven't really had a permanent place at the table. You know what I mean? And then the fact that I'm writing in a genre where there are very few African Americans writing. Mm-hmm. And I think of, I think of Octavia Butler, and I think of what she, as a Black woman sci-fi writer, what she had to go through. And so, right now, look, we've got Walter Mosley, we've got S.A. Cosby, who's killing it. Sean is killing it right now. His writing is fantastic.
He's making you mad?
No, he makes me hopeful.
Okay.
He pisses me off a little bit, but he mainly makes me hopeful because he came out of nowhere like 3 years ago. He's just been on the scene for about 3 years, and he is killing it. Super nice guy, by the way.
Some writers say the characters start telling them what they want to do. Is that how it is for you?
Yeah. I had a character that I was I thought what would be best for the series would be to kill them. And also, I like a series where it's not predictable. So sometimes when you do kill, you look at Drew Barrymore and
Scream. Didn't expect
No one expected Drew Barrymore to be killed. And so when you do that, that also puts everyone on alert. It tells you that, so you go, I'm sure the good guy's going to catch the bad guy, and this is what's going to happen. And then all of a sudden you go, maybe not, because this writer doesn't mind killing. So I was convinced I was going to kill someone, one of my characters. And they started fighting for survival. They started, and I started hearing the voice, I started seeing, and then it was kind of like a stay of execution. And then I just was like, oh shit, I gotta, and so that's a wonderful thing. And then that moment when you live with you live with lines, you live with characters, and you can't let them go, and they speak to you that way as well. They can't. You go to bed, you think about them, you start thinking about what they do on a regular basis. You start thinking about ways to make them more interesting. All of that, they take over, and that voice takes over.
Do you think about how your acting experience has helped you as a writer?
Absolutely. And here's the cool thing: like people always say, "Hey, which do you prefer more? Do you prefer acting? No?" What they don't understand is that I view them as extensions of each other. So my acting has made me a really good director because I'm considered to be a performance-driven director. So I know how to talk to actors. I know how to pull things out of actors. I know how to call actors on their BS because I used to do it. You know what I mean? When we're fronting and when we're fooling so many people with, that one tear, we've all been there.
And you're
right?
doing acting tricks rather than really communicating.
Exactly. So, so I taught acting. So I'd call students out on it, and own up to my participation in it as well. So all of this stuff helps each discipline. So my writing helps my directing helps my producing helps my writing. So it's all, they're all, and because I learn more. What's the truth here? What's the thing that we're going for? Which is truth. Our art should be in pursuit of truth.
Yeah.
And so what helps me to be more, what helps me to express that truth the best. And so the acting influence, the directing influence, my writing, and here's one, my writing is extremely visual, is very cinematic. Obviously, that's the influence of being an actor, the influence of being a director. So when people read these books, they're like, man, I see it. And sometimes they see it too much because, it gets a little edgy, but they're like, I see this. So I see this as a movie. So that influence. So yeah, they all influence each other in a very
if the writing can be visual and really create images in people's minds, a movie in people, that's so powerful, right? They're really sucked in when they're not reading words, but they're seeing pictures.
Right.
Somebody, I think it was Sadie Smith, talked about, we don't describe what the character looks like, right? We might describe what they're wearing, but we don't give you a precise decision of their face because we want you to fill that in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I go back and forth with that. Because a lot of times people say, one thing that I do that I'm very proud of, I can create controversial points of view, but I do it from a very neutral point of view as the author. I don't take sides. And so in this book, we have tensions between the African American community and we have and the Jewish American community. And I don't pick sides. I show the flaws equally. I show, we have a racist Jewish character who's locked and imprisoned in a basement with a racist African American. And I don't pull punches either way. So you decide. I'm not here to tell you, oh, the white guy has to always be wrong because I'm black, or the woman has to be wrong because I'm male, or whatever. You know what I mean? I just put it out there. So sometimes I do describe in detail because I want to paint such a picture. Such a picture that they go, oh my God, I see that character. I see that character.
But you lived here in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
And in that time, there was a lot of Black and Jewish strife, lots of different incidents where different people got hurt, a lot of them in Brooklyn, some in Manhattan.
Absolutely.
Is that part of what is still in you that you're talking about?
Absolutely. Listen, for me, you think of all this stuff as really being a journey. Life is a journey. So it's like, what are the things that you pick up along the way? And being a writer has allowed me to repurpose, recapture so many things that you want to share. Like, you think about this, we're a society now of selfies.
Mm-hmm.
But what's the underlying thing there? People are trying to share. I mean, I think we've abused it personally, but social media, selfies, people are trying to share with the world what they had as a magical moment. So if they're in Thailand.
But the whole moment is the selfie.
Right.
Like we didn't, I just saw Eriq La Salle walking by in the airport. Oh, can we take a picture? Okay, bye. Did we talk? No. The whole interaction was the selfie.
And and so my thing is, as a writer, I used to always say, I remember I was in a relationship, this woman, and she would get so irritated with me because, you know, I would always say, wow, this is before a lot of the cell phones. This is back in the 90s. And I would say, man, I wish I could film this. I was trying to preserve the moment. I was trying to preserve the full moment. Like you say, this moment, like what this moment. So she said to me, she says, I just wish you were in the moment. And I said to her, I said, you know, you got it wrong. I'm so in the moment that I'm living in this moment, and I'm trying to keep this moment. I'm trying to prolong this moment, because that moment, I'm trying to preserve this moment because this moment is so powerful. So it's not that I'm not in the moment. I'm like that. You just see a sunrise. I see a universe. I see a world.
But this is the modern debate, right? That are we ever in the moment? Are we on our phones? Are we recording the moment so we can't?
I don't think so.
In it?
I don't think so. I think with what you said earlier, I think right now, I think we've gone past that, and I don't want to sound like a hypocrite, like, oh, I was there, but other people can. I'm just talking about the results of what we see in society. Listen, there's a what is it? The Bang was it the Bang Brothers, the photographers, the group of photographers that all won Pulitzers and all type of awards. And so there's the famous photo of this African girl starving to death and a vulture in the background. And so the guy ended up getting a Pulitzer for it. And that somebody asked him, someone of color asked him, what happened to the girl? And he said, I don't know, I had a plane to catch. And that person said, it seems to me that there were two vultures there that day. He won the award, and I think 6 months later he committed suicide. So the point is this. Where we are right now, think about it. People have accidents, people are dying. People aren't running to call 911. They're recording. So I think on a whole, of course, there are people that are not doing it, but on a whole,
we're not
as a society,
in the moment.
We're not in the moment. That's my opinion. Now, there are some people but think about it. First thing you see, I'm commenting, let me do this. I'm hoping to go viral. Like there's all this stuff as opposed to this person.
Because they want something from it. They don't want to preserve the moment for the beauty of the moment.
Bingo. That's the difference. I want likes.
Look.
I want more people. I want more followers.
Can't wait to post this.
I want more relevance. And that's, to me, the thing. That's one of the most dangerous things, is that how we pursue relevance. So you have people, and sometimes it embarrasses me. I know sometimes I know people, and they're on Instagram, and you just see the desperation. And it's one of the things, like, I really struggle with social media, and I struggle with posting. I'm a private person, and I prefer my privacy.
Are you on Instagram?
I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook.
Are you on Twitter?
I'm on Twitter. I'm not on
X.
There's some.
But you're out there.
I'm out there. But I struggle with how much of my life do I reveal. But that's what people want. People want the more personal stuff. They want the stuff. And so I go, and now and this says a lot, I joined social media the day that I released my self-published book. So my first book came out, we did the rounds, didn't get any bites, got rejected by everyone. So then I decided, well, I'm just going to self-publish it. So the day that I went to self-publish, that's when I joined Twitter. And because I also understood, in order for me to have the type of success that I dreamed of having as a writer, you have to sacrifice certain things. So I have sacrificed by my standards, some of my privacy. And so I think that, yesterday I was doing an interview and somebody asked me something. I said, art costs. Art should cost you. Your art does cost you. And you have to figure out what it costs, because when you're in pursuit of truth, when you're in pursuit of doing things, it costs you. And so the desire to be a legitimate, respected novelist is so important to me because there aren't many people that have had great success as an actor, great success as a director, great success as a producer, and great success as an author. That's a minority. So those are the clubs I'm interested in being a member of. That's the time of being a minority is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
So understanding how important that is to me, I make, and I'm not, this is not a woe is me or whatever. I'm just simply saying like, I'm just like, so when my team is trying to get me to post things, it makes me cringe a little because I'm like, that's my pride. Like, but it's a necessary evil.
You want people to read the word.
If you want it, and listen, and then let me not be a hypocrite. Social media is helping me in a huge way. Yeah. So I don't, but we're just talking honestly. So
I think a lot of us use it and bemoan it, and it becomes this necessary evil. And we can be critical of it,
right?
While we're still
doing it,
using
but it's also those of us that know what it is, and so when we see posts of desperate people, and particularly in my field, trying to hold on to glory days, trying to hold on to, and you go, and is that, I don't want to call anybody out, but I've just seen some stuff, and it makes you just kind of cringe, and so I always want to be relevant based on the work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't need to be relevant based on what party I'm at, what premiere I'm at, what posting I'm doing to, look at me, I'm in Paris and blah blah. Look at the food. I'm like, that's private. Like that's between me and who's ever having that meal. That's our experience. You know what I mean? And it's just like simple things like that. But at the same time, like I said, social media has really put me out there and continuing, and this is growing more and more even with this book. So
there's no such thing as privacy in the modern era. God, Coming to America, I just rewatched about half of it on Saturday. It's on TV all the time.
Yeah.
Right? Hey, it's an extraordinary thing that still lives in the world that people still love you for.
Yeah.
And you had a huge critical role in that. You were the acceptable Negro, right? The one you're supposed to marry, right? The nice guy who comes with the flowers, who you're supposed to marry. But she's like, It's like, I don't know. He's so acceptable. I don't know. I like this other guy.
Well, I think that there are certain films, and books, and songs, they just hit a chord.
Yeah.
That's all. They hit a chord. I was, lately, for whatever reason, they've been playing Whitney Houston's I'll Always Love You. And, you listen to it and it just hit a note, literally and figuratively. And so some things just hit a note. I think like Coming to America was one of those cultural phenomenons.
Yeah.
Because it was, one thing, I mean, if you can analyze it, till the cows come home. But one thing was there were so many inside Black jokes, but there were enough jokes for white people to appreciate as well. You know what I mean? So when black people love certain things about it, white people sort of got a peep into that. They love that, but they even the broader things. And so
we do love a beautiful vision of Africa, right? And it gives you a very modern, high tech. They're not.
It was Wakanda before Wakanda.
It was Wakanda before Wakanda.
Right.
Yeah, they're not in huts. They are in mansions. They're doing it big.
Royalty.
That right off the bat was like, yo, I like being in this world.
Well, the incredible John Amos, when he's got his own money. No, honey, he's got his own. It's a picture of him on the money, and he's like, no, he's got his own money. So they're just, I think one of the things, obviously, the film is extremely
Jackson was in
quotable.
there.
Sam Jackson, the
Jesus
cast,
Christ.
Louis Anderson, the late Louis Anderson,
but Sam Jackson in a cameo. As a cracked out robber.
Well, that's before Sam became Sam.
Clearly.
Sam was on the come up,
Yeah.
And he had some things, and shortly after that, Spike's film.
Yeah, Do the Right Thing.
No. The interracial
Jungle Fever.
Jungle Fever. You know,
But he was the DJ in Do the Right Thing.
Yeah, but I'm saying,
Right.
but he was. But what I'm saying, the bigger stuff was just about to start.
Yeah.
Kicking in, and so look, the film is very well cast.
Yeah.
Obviously, it is very quotable. So I think that's what keeps it around. I think, and not only is it quotable, but it's. Well, I'm just going to make up a word. It's sceneable, and what I mean by sceneable is there are very specific scenes people love. And they love to quote from the scenes, or even if the scene doesn't have a quote, they love referring to that scene. So it's got verbal quotes, it's got scenes as well, cast, in that time.
All the time in conversation.
Yeah.
Like such and such and Coming to America. Yeah. I mean, and all the reasons why it's this multi-decade phenomenon. You had maybe the biggest star, definitely the biggest comedy star of the decade.
Right.
Starring in it, comedic
No, he
genius.
was the biggest star. He was the biggest star in the world at that time. And, look, you got an opportunity to see a different side of him. You saw a tender side of him. You saw a romantic side of him. And you have to, when we start talking about the history of cinema, sometimes things are impactful based on the time.
Yeah.
And so you look at, we didn't have many films that showed black men being tender and being romantic and royal and regal and all of we didn't have that. So just to be able to look at when She's Gotta Have It came along, it was the same thing. You didn't have films that part of that, the success of that film. You didn't have films that really dealt with black women's sexuality. Yeah. And so here was a woman who was saying, I'm unapologetic about my sexuality. If I decide I want to sleep with 3 men, I'm going to do it.
And it's fine.
So you don't have that luxury. And so these are some of the things that contribute to the success, the timing. And so people were, when I was living here, remember the little independent theater in Lincoln Center right across from Juilliard?
Sure, absolutely.
Right? That line was around the corner. It was around, and it's funny because, so I went to school with Spike. We were both at NYU, and he offered me a role. He offered me one of the leads in She's Gotta Have It.
Really? Which one?
Greer, was it Greer?
Greer Childs.
Greer Childs.
The one who's always working out, great shape.
So he offered me that role.
The man who thinks the most of himself.
Exactly. So I was offered that role. And I don't, no criticism of it, but I think my issue was I was like, well, I just want him to be more 3-dimensional. I found him to, but I, to Spike's point or to his intelligence of filming, he wanted to present like these 3 men were not whole.
Yeah, she's whole.
She's whole.
Yes.
And she's defining her wholeness. These 3 men, that's the point. And see, my training was making each character a world, a full dimensional. And so I still come more from that point of view. Like in my books, my characters are whole. They're 3-dimensional, even if they come in and have a small role. As a matter of fact, like I spin some of my characters I give them a full book. Like they'll have one scene or something. I go, I like that character. I'm going to give them a full book. So back then, I look at things as a whole. Spike was smart enough because he knew what he was building. We come from very different points, and I understood after I got past. I was like, oh, I see. It was intentional. That each character is not whole. And so I'm going to him, going, yeah, I'll do it, but I think we should. Sparks looking at me like, what? Like,
You're
dude, either you want to do this or you want. And I was like, okay. And people thought, oh my God, you're crazy, you're stupid for blah, blah, blah. You can only go with what you know. I don't know how to be. I'm always going to be searching for ways to make each character three-dimensional.
Yeah.
I do that as a director. I do that as a producer. I do that as an actor. I do that as an author. That's who I am.
Yeah.
I can't cut that off. That's how I tell stories.
Yeah.
Other people tell stories the way they tell them, and you go, and then you can sit back and go, wow, I like how you tell that story.
I mean,
I can't do it.
When you see the story of She's Gotta Have It, you understand the value of, it's really Greer and Mars, Spike's character, who are two-dimensional, right? Jamie, the main one, he's more three-dimensional.
He's more evolved, but they still, for me, the three of them were sort of the buildup of one, the buildup to one.
But that's what it was intending to be.
Exactly.
Because she's trying to Frankenstein the perfect man and have one relationship with these three guys.
Which, to his credit, that's talk about the empowerment of, a female story.
Yeah.
Because that mentality is much more male. We tend to Frankenstein. We tend to say, oh, I wish she had this. I wish she had that. If she had this, and boom, boom, boom. If she had her thing, she'd be great. If she had her drive, her looks.
Well, you don't usually see a script where the men are two-dimensional and the woman is three-dimensional.
No, that's exactly what I'm saying. Right, you don't. And so, again, that's what I'm saying, like female empowerment. And so again, I think that, a lot of people were identifying when we talk about great films, Black people were starved for eroticism and sexuality and mature stuff. I mean, think about it. In the 90s, we were still pimps, hoes, and drug addicts and drug dealers, and you know what I mean. So to now, wow, what a lot of white people don't understand, because unfortunately, they get to take it for granted when they look at their movies, but Black people weren't kissing on film. This is the late 80s. There wasn't a lot of kissing. There wasn't a lot of just basic stuff.
So wait, why did you want to get into acting? Is it because you wanted to expand the vision of Black people on a screen?
No, I got into acting at 14 years old. I wasn't that deep, but good one. I wish I were. I was not that deep. I was writing. I was a young poet, and when I say that, I don't mean out to the world. I'm just saying, for me, I like writing poetry, short stories. I used to, write poems for girls, and that was really cool. And so I had this cool idea in my mind to write.
Did that work for you?
Oh yeah. Yes, it did. It worked for me. It worked for my cousin. It worked for. Yeah. He was like, I just broke up. Write me a poem. I was like, shh. Oh my God, you're so sweet. He would claim it. He was like, yeah, I just wrote this for you. So I joke about it, but I got to tell you something, man. It validated, again, when you talk about writing something in a vacuum, so you're a young kid, I'm young, you're a young kid, you're writing something, you don't know what kind of effect it has. My biggest thing was, I had a cousin who asked me to write something, it was a school project. Yeah. So he asked me to write something, and I wrote it, and he turned it in, and the teacher asked him to stay after class. And she said, you plagiarized this. And she said, you did not write this. And he goes, yeah. And she said, it's too good for you to have written. And we were the same age. And that was validation for like, oh, wow. she thought he plagiarized it from like, somebody like an adult, let's just say, right? Yeah. And so for me, it validated, because I didn't, look, like I said, I'm giving my poems to girls, I'm giving them to relatives to get them out of trouble. I'm doing it that way. So I decided, a freshman in high school, had my first leather jacket, had my jeans, girls were like, oh, he's bow-legged, he's cute. I was like, oh, shit.
Where are you in this? Where are you living?
Hartford, Connecticut.
Okay.
Right? So I'm feeling that, right? Okay. And so I'm like, all right, let's, in my mind, my attention was all on that. And so the drama club was having auditions. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna write this amazing play. They're gonna perform it. I'm gonna be this great playwright. And I show up, and the drama teacher's like, and his name is Paul Zients. I still remember him. As a matter of fact, in Chicago, I've invited him to the set of Chicago PD because it's kind of cool to reach back to a teacher that helped influence. But he was like, "Yeah, no, we need you to audition. We don't need you to write a play. We're going to do Raisin in the Sun. Maybe you've heard of it. There's a playwright by the name of Lorraine Hansberry. Yeah, those are the kind of plays we're doing, right? So I'm like, oh, so he's like, so I audition, I get cast, and then the acting thing takes over. So from 14 to me, jump ahead to me landing this big role. Really big role. I'd replaced Denzel Washington. He was doing an interracial love story with Michelle Pfeiffer. And for whatever reason, he left.
You're talking about ER?
No. This is pre-ER.
Okay, what are you talking about?
This is a movie.
Okay.
It's called Love Field. It's called Love Field. So
and Denzel was supposed to do it?
Denzel was supposed to do it. He was in it. He drops out. So there's a mad search. How do we replace him? So they have all these auditions. They fly me out from New York to LA. I end up getting the role. People magazine is like, oh my God, who is this guy? He's about to blow up. This is blah, blah, blah. So, I'm like, okay. So I worked my ass off. I'm like, this is my shot. I worked my ass off. 2 weeks, and the director's pulling me aside. He's like, dude, you're doing some really good work. I'm like, cool. So Michelle was one of the producers. So one morning, I get a knock at the door of my apartment. And one of the producers comes and says, you look too young to play her love interest. We're going to have to fire you. No, they don't say fire. We're going to have to let you go. We're going to have to make a change, right? We're going to have to go in another direction. Brother, I am devastated.
Yeah.
I am absolutely devastated. I mean, this is it. I'm doing everything right. I'm not out partying, which is not me, but it's one thing to get fired for something being your fault. But, here you are doing everything right. So anyway, I'm devastated. And, they got to pay me. So they pay me. I go, I spend a whole bunch of money. This was after coming to America. So I bought a condo up in Washington Heights. And so I'm like, I'm going to furnish it. So I do that, spend more money in one day than I've ever done or made or whatever. And I was like, okay, now what? And then I went and enrolled in film class. And so
that was Juilliard.
No,
not yet.
That was Juilliard was acting. This was after. This I was a professional.
This is NYU.
This is after school. This is me being a professional. So I went to the new school.
Okay.
And took an intensive filmmaking course. And the reason I did that is because I needed empowerment. I didn't want to spend the rest of my career, even when you're doing it right, you could be fired like that. Like that was that. When I say devastation, I'm not like being overly dramatic. I'm saying I'm a very logical person.
Yeah.
And that broke my sense of logic.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, well, if you do your best and you work hard, this will happen.
Yeah.
Good will happen.
Yeah. Not necessarily.
Good, not necessarily, right? And so I was, I was probably 27, 28 at the time. So I just decided, I want to go into film. And so I started, but then once I started doing the film thing to bring this all back, I then had to start writing again. I had to write short films to shoot. That's what got me back to writing. So from 14 to 28, it was all about acting. It was all about that. But then now I'm a director, or I'm taking these directing classes, and they say, okay, hand in a film next week. Well, you got to go write that. Then after, and so then I started writing short films. I started filming them. Then even after I finished that intensive course, I continued to do short films, and then that became my calling card to get. So it's funny how that brought me back full circle to writing.
Wait, what is the greatest advice you ever got about acting?
There's some cool things that I still use. Acting is having a private moment publicly. My mentor used to tell me, you're only as interesting as the problems you're trying to solve. He would also tell me, and I apply, he was like a father figure to me. I apply a lot of what he said in life in general. Your payoff is only as good as your setup. So that, can you imagine how that still influences me as a storyteller, as a director, as a author. So these were some of the, and then lately, and when I say lately, I mean like in the last 10 years, I've heard, art costs. What does your art cost? And so I started questioning, what does art cost me? What does art cost me? What does truth cost me? And I've been very aware sometimes of the cost. And the cost isn't always devastating or anything.
Right.
It can be, but it's not always devastating. It's just, what does it cost you?
So you're part of this great lineage of Black actors who've gone up there and just done so much in terms of creating positive role models and images, and I'm sure you feel part of that line of folks going back 60s, 50s, whatever. So I wonder what it means to ask everybody who comes on the show, what does it mean to you to be Black as far as being an actor and being part of this amazing history?
I think it's sad. How do I say this? It's sad that there's still firsts we haven't accomplished.
Yeah.
Still.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We were talking about Barbara Streisand earlier and how I didn't notice until I saw it at the museum, but she was the first woman allowed to direct a studio film.
Yeah.
That's our lifetime. That's our lifetime, right? You know what I'm saying? The first woman. And so there are still firsts.
That was Yentl?
Was it, her first one was it Yentl?
Prince of Tides.
Prince of Tides, yeah. She's the first. And so when I look at African Americans, people of color, and go, we still don't have a best director. We still don't, think about the things we still don't have and the things we, so on one hand, it's a challenge and you're like, okay, cool. But on another hand, you're like, wow, really? We're still, in our lifetime, we're dealing with that. So as far as the lineage, I'm actually, and I hope this answers your question, maybe not as directly, but I'm actually a little saddened or critical or discouraged by right now what I feel that we're seeing. I don't think the talent is getting better. I think that lineage.
Talent is not getting better?
I don't think so. I think the lineage has been broke. I think striving for the things. I grew up, Sidney Poitier completely influenced my generation, completely influenced me. We didn't have many, but we had Sidney, and that's what you, and how he carried himself, Harry Belafonte, Bill Cosby, James Earl Jones.
Yes.
So these were the giants, and they had their struggles. These were the giants that you get people like Canada Lee that never quite made it, but these were the giants. And so you felt when you embraced Sidney and that was your pursuit, there was a certain level of dignity, there was a level of discipline, there was a level of craft, there was you deal with James Earl Jones, because these guys were so theater-based. So they had the discipline of theater, and then they became these stars. To me, it's a little sad now because reality TV is something that I think has lessened our talent pool. I think now you don't have to have true talent to be famous. And that's one of the problems. And so when we go back to social media, you can be on a show and it's really, how ratchet are you? Ratchet is what gets you the likes or the dislikes or the followers or the whatever. And so when you start seeing African Americans, and to me sometimes degrading themselves by going for the lowest hanging fruit, by just being, girl, I'll kick your ass. And like I can't watch those shows. I can't, you know what I mean? That's not for me. It's clearly for people. But aside from our taste, it doesn't really inspire like this level of talent and studying and craft. And so people come out now and they've got, he's got 3 million likes. He's never taken an acting class before, but studios now might hire that person over someone who is really talented.
Sometimes, but I could see it. I think a lot of people can see it. When you have a non-actor acting with an actor, you can see it.
Okay.
You can see
but does that help? The fact that you can, because here's the danger.
No, it doesn't help them as a creative production. I can see you are not doing what she's doing.
Okay, but when there is, look, I'm the generation that went through the first and second wave of rappers becoming actors. Now, there are some exceptions. There are some people that have transitioned well and become whatever.
Latifah.
Yeah, but for the most part,
they didn't become actors.
For the most part, they were horrible, right? And they didn't become actors. But here's the thing: the devastation. I cannot tell you how many times. So I come from the generation, college-wise. It was, a lot of us went to college together. It was me, Michael Beach, Wendell Pierce, Ving Rhames, Wesley Snipes. These are my peers. These were the guys we all went on auditions. We're all classically trained actors, right? Andre Brower, a lot of them came out of Juilliard. Wes came out of SUNY Purchase. We graduated the same year. Wes has slept on my couch. I mean, we've known each other. But so we'd go, and out of that pool, one of us would usually land, 7 out of 10 times, one of us is, and then all of a sudden there was this new wave of rappers coming in and not trained, not whatever. And so what people don't always understand is, actors, you're starving for your next job. You don't know what, you're sometimes just barely hanging on. Here comes this great role, and you're like, okay, you put everything you have into it. And it's got nothing to do with talent. It's got to do with, this person has a song. And so the devastation.
Bring people in to the theater.
People, we think, because it doesn't always translate, but they were willing to, take a chance. So that's just one job. No, it was happening a lot. And one job is important. You know what I mean? And one job is important when you are a true artist. When you're a true artist, there's no such thing as just one job. That's one life. Like you die a little. I'm sorry. I don't want to sound pretentious or anything, but I'm talking to true artists. You die a little bit when you go after, because it takes that much. It takes you getting up, getting up at 2 a.m, staying up till 3 a.m, studying, doing whatever you need to do to, you go in.
You're talking about just auditioning, just
auditioning,
just trying to get the job. You're going in.
You go in because that's all you know. You throw yourself in, and it's met with this series, because you're going to be rejected just for whatever reason in general. But then there was this new element where you go, hold on. They went with, it's one thing, we were never competitive. Like the list of actors that I gave you, we were never, we go to auditions, we'd wait for each other and go to lunch. It's like, yo, I'll be outside when you get finished with your audition, break a leg. Hey, yo, there's a new audition. Have you heard about this audition? We
respected each other.
We respected it just to say, yo, you heard about this audition for such and such? We share, we weren't, this is mine. No, we weren't like that. So, but you still at that point, you're striving, you're trying to just survive. So there's a piece of, when you're a real artist, man, there's a piece of you that dies a little, particularly when you see that the choice is so commercial or so, it has nothing to do with art. And you should be like, okay, I can justify, but that doesn't help your rent. That doesn't help your mentality. No. That doesn't help your self-esteem. No. That doesn't help. So you die a little. So it was bigger than just losing a role, because you're losing many roles for many reasons. Now, if we lost a role to each other, whatever.
He
cool.
worked hard. He trained.
No problem. Let's go grab some lunch.
But
lunch is on you.
Validates your choices to prepare for that moment. They chose Wesley, not me, but he went to school. He's in class. I'm doing the same things he's doing. So if it's working for him, it'll work for me at some point.
Right.
If somebody makes an album, it goes platinum, and they hire him, well, I can't compete with that.
I can't compete. But he can't compete with what we do. That person doesn't understand craft. What we're doing now is we're making it even more acceptable that you don't have to study, you don't have to understand craft. You just have to be controversial.
See, part of what you're getting at is that a lot of people who don't study acting think acting's easy.
Exactly. All of this.
We, as a public, love acting, don't understand what you're doing.
Don't understand it. Oh, I like her, and blah, blah, blah. And sometimes, I'll look at them like, okay, tell me what do you like? What's credible about this? And then when you, as someone that understands craft, as someone that teaches acting, as someone that directs, I'll start breaking down. Okay, did you believe this? No. Well, what about this? No. You go down the list and you go, well, then why exactly did you? I don't know, I liked her or I liked him because, you know what I mean? But they can't tell you, but you look at.
But they will go to the theater to see that person because.
Sometimes.
The people who you and I could say are the top 3 or 4 box office grossers are not the best actors in Hollywood.
Well, I mean, it depends on. I think it depends on there's certain genres and certain things that you go, okay, I get this person for that. I'm a big Tom Cruise fan. I wasn't always.
Wait, you think see, I was avoiding saying that name because I didn't want you to be in a position.
I think this.
Do you think he's a good actor?
I think this. I think he is one of the most committed actors.
Okay.
And
sure.
And that's got my respect because craft is commitment and it's understanding. And I think that I think Tom takes chances. I think even at the height of his popularity, he was doing independent film. He would try things. He's not afraid to.
Are you surprised by his choices on screen?
No, his choices on screen, no. It's not so much that they surprise me, but I've bought into, particularly like, for instance, like the, like Top Gun. Top Gun was just, listen, is Top Gun this, super artistic, film? No. But is it a good old-fashioned popcorn movie that you just feel good about?
Yeah.
The first one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
the second one was garbage.
No, Maverick.
Yeah, the first one. The first movie.
No, I think just the opposite.
What are you talking about?
Hold on.
The latter one? The more recent one?
Maverick 2 years ago? Oh, man, that was so much fun. That was not garbage. That was not garbage.
That movie was terrible.
That was fun. That was a good, fun
I was like,
experience.
why are we
here?
here?
You know why? Because the problem I had with Top Gun was they took themselves a little too seriously. And
They're
it was
fighter
incredible.
pilots in the Navy.
Okay. You want me to destroy that for you?
Good.
Okay. So, yeah, these are Mavericks. These are Top Gun guys.
They're fighting against
Well, guess
Russia.
what? There are classes above them. So there are other Top Guns. This isn't the first.
No. At the first big meeting, they're like, you are the best of the best. There is no class above you.
I found it incredulous that these is upon graduation. Okay, now we're going to throw you in war. You got to go.
They just finished training.
Right.
Okay. But that has nothing to do with Tom. Wait.
Right.
But if we look over the scope of his career, because I don't want to argue about a specific movie, do you not see a sort of rigid sameness from job to job?
Listen, man.
I'm just comparing him.
Right, I'm not comparing him to like a Denzel or to.
But I think there's two kinds of actors. There's chameleons.
I'm sorry. First one, he's a star.
For sure.
Okay, well, so there's a star. There's stars and there are actors.
Yes.
And I think that there are stars that
can be actors.
That can be actors, thank you.
And then there's stars who are what? If they're not actors, then they're what?
They're just well marketed. You know, I think Tom is. You look at his career. Look, even Tropical Thunder.
Tropic.
Was it Tropical?
Tropic Thunder.
Tropic Thunder. Okay, remember? Okay, but I'm just saying.
But Robert Downey Jr.
Exactly. Both of them were equally committed. Both of them, like, and again, here's someone at the height who doesn't have to take these chances.
You're just happy that he took the role.
I'm happy that he took the role that required him to go in. And I appreciate his preparedness, and that translates into, like, when I see how intense he is. I respect that. Am I saying that he is?
But you're not.
I'm not saying he's Denzel.
No, of course not. You're not. Are you saying Tom Cruise is a great actor? Not a star. Clearly a star.
I think he's for me, he's an enjoyable star. I'll leave it at that. I enjoy him being a star. I enjoy him being committed. I think he pushes to elevate action films. I think he pushes, and they don't all work. Yes. They don't all work, but when they do, I go, okay, I had fun with him. Thank you. Why? Because at least you made things credible. I'm not sitting there going, there is no way in hell that you're going to do this. I go, okay, fine. You made it as credible as it can under these circumstances. So, but now, is that like if I
don't understand. I have not taken an acting class. I aspire to, so I don't understand all the things, right? Mm-hmm. I saw a clip of Matt Damon explaining how Jack Nicholson had changed the scene in Departed you saw that clip, right?
Yes.
When they killed the guy with the wife, and he's supposed to say this.
And he just keeps...
And he keeps making shorter, but then he added a little bit that made it like, we've clearly done this before. Yeah. And it was like, yo, you are so deep within the character.
Right. That's different.
And I'm like...
That's different. No, that's different. Those are actors in their prime, really great actors. I mean, like I said, stars are stars. Stars can be good actors. Stars can be fun stars.
So Tom, if you're saying Tom Cruise is a fun star to watch, mm-hmm. I'm with you.
Right.
There is clearly a different, just thinking about guys above the line, right? Denzel, Nicholson, Pacino, these are actors.
Right. Right.
Sean Penn, right? These are, and I'm just thinking of men, right?
Right.
Viola Davis.
Right.
Actor.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
Tom Cruise is in a different category.
Right. Exactly. And that's fine. What I'm saying in the way that we got into this is my respect for his commitment to that, as opposed to many of these reality actors now. They're not committing to anything. They're committing to fighting on camera, to then all of a sudden you've got, they're committing to doing crazy stuff.
Wait, who are the rappers who you were like, damn?
Really? Think about the first wave of rappers. Ice-T, Ice Cube, every rapper at that point was getting a shot. Sure. And so it started coming with more frequency. And so again, when we started, it's just one job. No, all of a sudden it's just like, but it's also sometimes the value, like some of these jobs were really good jobs.
Ice-T is intense as hell on screen.
Well, now look, these guys have, here's the problem. Here's the issue with this. And this is me being a snob, okay? No matter what a person who's not a real actor does, and you keep letting them grow, and all of a sudden they get to a point where you're like, okay, right on. Can you imagine if you had nurtured an actor the same way? It would, to me, so even if, this is a rapper, but we're going to put them in this film. And all of a sudden, at some point, they reach a point where you just accept them. You're like, oh, okay, they're not bad. But if you had a real actor who really understood craft. And I want to be clear, I'm not saying all of these, because some of these rappers definitely have taken it serious, taken the opportunity serious. So I'm not, if you're a rapper, I'm dismissing. I'm not saying that.
No.
I'm talking about there are a lot of them have fallen off and you know, with movies, whatever, but I'm saying at that time in the 80s when a lot of them were getting, so, but if you had taken a real actor and gave them this opportunity, now you create, like, who is the successor to Denzel? Who is do we have that right? Thank you. Do we have that right? Do we have that really lined up? So you would have had more opportunities, because when you look at our white counterparts, because of the opportunities that they have, there's someone pretty much in line for,
like, I can understand, obviously I understand your perspective as an artist, right? Like, let's give it to the artist, right? And let them grow. Mm-hmm. I do understand the studio. We just spent 30, 40 million.
I understand it.
And we have Denzel, but if we also put Eminem, Redman, Method Man in the movie, then the people will go, yo, it's Denzel and Method Man. The typical character actor, the average audience member, they're not going to get them in the door. Once they're there, they're like, yo, I'm really happy that Philip Seymour Hoffman is here because he's always great. Right? He's not the leader, he's number 3 or 4, but he is always making me happy, right? But he did not get me in. And Philip Seymour Hoffman, some people go to the movies to see him. Right. But I'm saying the character actor does not get you in the door. He makes you happy when you're already there.
I get,
But that star from another genre.
A name gets you. And I get it. No, I understand it from a business point of view. I'm just saying, like, now this next generation, if we're trying to build legacy, if we're trying to build, the progeny of what we've established, who's coming next, I want to nurture the art. The artist will keep this thing alive. At some point, you look at stuff, and you go, I'm not really excited about sometimes, I'll have auditions, as a director, and I'm waiting for a young actor to come in and just knock me off my socks. I'm waiting for, and I don't want this to come off the wrong way, I'm waiting for the generation of actors when we were coming out. Listen, if Wesley Snipes went into a room, there's going to be some excitement. If Michael Beach went into a room, there's going to be some excitement. If Ving Rhames went into a room, there's going to be Wendell Pierce. There's going to be some excitement. There's going to be, now, might not be right for the role, might not get the role, but so when we went in, I miss that. You see what I'm saying? As a director, when I have auditions, sometimes I go, I haven't seen anyone. I go, I want somebody to come in here and take the role.
But let's talk. The young actors who are listening, who may audition for you or someone like you, what should they do?
They should be prepared. They should know their craft. You know how many times I have to stop actors and just simply say, I'm sorry, what's your objective? We couldn't. Your mother wouldn't let you leave the house until you washed your hands or something. We couldn't leave school if we didn't know what an objective was, what an obstacle was, what actions were. Like, that's a part of your foundation. Sometimes when I teach acting, I say, show of hands, guys, who can tell me what an objective is? Who can tell me what the actions are? And people, that's just stand. Now they're in school, so that's when you give it to them. But there are people that will come into the room and you say, what was your objective? They don't know. They haven't made a choice. So when you ask me I want to see a generation of actors that come in, and I go, I'm not going to hire you for this, but I'm going to keep you in mind. And I do that. Like, if somebody comes in, because to me, they're becoming far and few in between. You know what I mean? So when somebody comes in, you might not be perfect for the role, but I'm like, okay, and when I was doing Chicago PD, I remember this one actress would come in, young Latina, and she just had something. She was raw, but you could tell she worked hard. You could tell she wanted everything. She always fell short. One reason or another, she always fell short. I just kept bringing her in. And then finally, there was a role that she came in. She put it all together. And I was like, cool. So that's the direction. But I cannot tell you how many times as a director and as a producer, I start getting nervous. I'm like, oh shit, like we're not going to be able to cast this role, or we're just going to have to settle because people aren't taking it. And I feel, and again, I could be biased, I feel our generation, there were so many. And listen, I'm only talking about the East Coast version of actors. You had Don Cheadle, Michael Boatman, Glenn Plummer. You had a lot of guys on the West Coast that were kicking ass as well, right? So I can only talk about, my pool.
Yeah.
So, but now no matter where I'm auditioning as a director, when I'm auditioning actors, a lot of them, it's just sometimes you're more pressed. So that's why I become a little bit more of a...
Your objective.
Gotta know your objective.
What is the point of
where
does the character want?
Just basic, just like that. And if you don't understand that basic thing, then so...
I mean, if the character doesn't want something, then you have nothing.
You have nothing.
They can't just exist.
Well, that's what I told you. I said, you're only as interesting as the problems you're trying to solve. You know what I mean? And so, and I like what I've been able to do is to take all that training, all that learning, and I put it in my writing. I put it in, and so when people talk about the books, when people read the books, they're reading these multi-dimensional characters. They're reading characters that do horrible things, but sometimes they end up rooting for the quote-unquote bad guy. Why? Because in my books, the bad guys, they have reasons. They don't just wake up and they're like, I'm evil. They have reasons. They were abused in a certain way. Like, so you get to see the making of someone that you might have had compassion for. Sure. And now all of a sudden you see that. So you're heartbroken when you understand how they've been made defective. And so that's what all of this stuff has, done for me, and having a source and an outlet to put that in creating these characters. That's why I love writing. That's why I love this series, because I get to explore human nature. So, when people are like, okay, it's a thriller, but you're dropping some science on some social stuff. You're dropping some science on some racial stuff. You're dropping some science on some gender stuff. You know what I mean? Those are, to me, the best compliments, because that means you're getting into this three-dimensional character. And like I said, I only know how to approach it from that point. Yeah, I only know how to approach it from that.
Thank you so much. Congrats on Laws of Annihilation.
Yes, thank you.
Everything else coming up for you?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on the show, and being able to talk about my baby. And you can get it in any major bookstore, or where all books are sold. But we're getting some good responses and reviews, and so like I said, for me it's really important to be a legitimate, well-respected author, not a celebrity author, not somebody that decided to pick up. And I still study my craft, the craft of writing. I'm learning every day the craft of writing and growing. And that's in every book. I just keep putting more of that knowledge into it and my growth into it. So each book just, to me, gets better and better.
Next book, no adjectives. That's my challenge to you.
That's your challenge. I do not accept.
No adjectives and no varies.
I love
no very at all.
No very varies.
No very.
I lost the very varies. I'll even lose very. I'll lose very. But hey, my brother, awesome.
Nice.
Thanks,
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
brother. All right.
Thanks so much to Big Eriq for a great interview, and thanks to you for listening. Toure Show gives you fuel to power your dreams, because you can use your dreams like a rocket ship to blast you into a life you never imagined. You can make your dreams a reality. And maybe this show can help. You can find me on Instagram at Toure Show. Toure Show is written by me, Touré, and produced by Jennifer Brown. Our editor is Ryan Woodhall. Our engineer is Claire McHale. Our booker is Claudia, and we're distributed by DCP Entertainment. And we will be back on Wednesday with more amazing guests, because the man can't shut us down.